Did you know that there are 37 historical sites along Main Street, winding along from the old Government House Museum all the way to the Sunday Morning Well? Join my fellow eCampers and I as we explore and tell you about all our favorite sites.
Welcome to the old Government House. Right now we're at the entrance of the museum, and behind of me is the monarch's administering officers as of 1956. The sigil could be placed as a flag, but only for the governor, either at his house or on his car.
Here I am with Miss Catliff, the supervisor of the old Government House. She's going to teach us about the history of the old Government House. Museum.
So this is the corridor, and this was the main floor where all the functions were held. Here is a photograph of Road Harbor in its natural state before any dredging was done. Here you also see a number of forts around Road Harbor. And here behind you, you look at a painting, and about that you'll find a photograph from 1912 of what the old Government House looked like, the first house. Now this is the house that we are now standing in, the old Government House. It was during the Restoration period. And into that interim period, His Excellency and his wife stayed at the Alamander Estate on Leaf Island. So this is the new governor's residence.
The most interesting thing that I have heard is that when the hurricane hit, 29 people were dead and 70 to 80 people were wounded. And it did not have any hospitals.
Now the last official visit we had was from the Duke of Gloucester, and he was here in 2012 as part of the Diamond Jubilee celebration. You know, the Queen celebrated her 60th anniversary on the throne. These are ships that visited the Virgin Islands. They would make an official call on His Excellency, and they would leave the badge from the ship with him, and in turn the governor will give them the Virgin Islands badge or shield or constitutional identity that you saw on the front.
The murals depict scenes from this site as it might have looked some 200 years ago when the original fort was built here.
All the murals in the dining room were done by the governor's wife, Miss Margaret Barrick.
This is the room where the governor wrote his letters.
So here you find each plantation has a number, and against each number you will find a name. And most of the names that you will find here as the plantation owner's name, we still have in the Virgin Islands as our last names.
John Coakley Lethem was a plantation owner, but his last name was spelled Letthom, but now we spell it Lettsom.
We're here in the old Government House Museum, but now the governor lives over there in his new residence.
We are the only country in the world where you will find a stamp with Queen Elizabeth's insignia on the stamp and the US dollar. It's the only place in the world that you will find that. And it's since 1959 we were granted the use of the US dollar.
This was the first stamp of the British Virgin Islands from 1858 to 1860. This is the stamp in 2012 for the Diamond Jubilee celebration.
Here we have the historical copper pot, which was used to boil sugar to make molasses, and today it is now used as a garden for different plants and also to rear different kind of animals.
Hey! People's Hospital was built after the cottage hospital was destroyed in a hurricane.
The building behind me which is now occupied as a restaurant, the Dove, was once the home of Sir Oliver Georges.
Here we are at Sir Oliver Georges Plaza, named after the only knighted Island. This monument was dedicated to Sir Oliver Georges on April 18, 2010.
Behind us we have the old post office and administration building, which was constructed in the mid-1880s. Today, the mailing services are no longer provided here because it was moved to the South Francis Drake Highway.
This building now houses coffee shop and a gift shop. Used to be the old customs house.
This building, which now has a sunny canopy, was the first guest house in the BVI. It was called the Social Inn.
This building was built in 1910 to house the physician surgery. It is now used to house Smith's Gore real estate.
This is the St. George's Anglican Church in Rotown, which was a survivor of the 18th century and was rebuilt in the early 19th century following a hurricane.
Sandwiched in between the Anglican Church and the Methodist Church is Her Majesty's Prison. It finished its construction in 1774. Up until 1999, it was the formal detention center of prisoners in the BVI.
In 1972, Mr. Chowell was the last person to be hanged in the prison.
We're here at the fireproof building here in Main Street, the former office of the British Virgin Islands President, one of the only buildings that survived the riot in 1853.
The sites back at the plantation period from 1608 to 1834 was purchased by J.E. William Georges. Up to the 1960s, its general shop was the prime source of imported products to all Virgin Islanders.
Y'all know Miss Althea Scatley?
Yeah.
Okay. The school is named after her, but this was her residence. She used to tutor children here in the afternoon time. She used to help them with the arithmetic and the geography, and she used to teach piano lessons upstairs. Now, if you look at that ruin there, anyone of you could imagine how that ruin might have been? Who said our oven?
Me.
Oh, you so. Yeah, that was an outdoor brick oven. What they were doing in the oven?
Pizza.
No man, they had no pizza in those days. The baking bread, you see that? The baking bread, the making tart, right there. That's the ruin of an old oven.
This is the home of Mrs. Althea Scatliffe, and when she was 100 years old, the Queen came to visit her. Over there's an old stone stove where Althea Scatliffe used to make cassava bread.
Okay, now I want to show you the cane mill. You know the sugar cane industry is what helped to build our country back in the 1800s. We would do the sugar cane and the sugar prior to slavery and after. Before they brought the motors from England, you would have something called the mill rung. The mill rung is where mules would go around all day, spinning something like this. Make get the juice from the sugar cane that would make the molasses. I would make the cane rum and the new sugar or brown sugar. Spin, 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 spin. See all the juice from the cane mill, see? There you go. The same idea. This is a new model. The juice would come through here, it would have a strainer and a funnel and everything.
This is the Sunday morning well. This landmark symbolizes the area where the Emancipation Proclamation took place in 1834. However, later on we discovered that the actual Emancipation Proclamation took place on the fireproof compound.
We hope you enjoyed this video journey and be sure to join us next time while we explore our BVI.